Hi, welcome back to Sugarfolk Homemade, my podcast where I talk about all the things that I have been crafting. I have mainly knitting to share with you today with a tiny smidge of crochet. And I have been very busy and I am really feeling inspired for fall. So I'm going to show you guys my finished objects, my WIPs, some acquisitions, and talk about the things that I want to cast on for fall, which some are already going. If you are new here, my name is Michaela and I'm coming to you from a very small town in western North Carolina where I live with my husband and our 4 kids. And if you are returning, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me today. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. So let's start with finished objects. I have 2. So the first one that I finished is the pebble shawlette that I'm making for a friend of mine from church. So last time I was almost done. This is what it looks like now. It's kind of hard to see the color because it's a bit see-through. The color, I just think it's beautiful for fall. And you can see it's stockinette on the sides, and then the middle triangle is this like knotted texture. And I will leave links to every pattern in the description below. So this was, I already forgot the yarn. I'm not prepared as usual. I think this was Big Little Yarn Company. The colorway was Heritage, I do know that. Sorry if you hear my kids in the background. I have set them up with some games and things to keep them busy while I record, but you can't keep kids quiet. So anyways, I really love how this turned out. I used the recommended needles, and the way I would tie it, Amber from A Lovely Yarn made this same shawl, and this is that's where I decided I was gonna make it too. I don't know if you can hear him, but he sounds so funny. So just kind of wrapped around twice with a little knot, I think is very cute. Even just once is cute. And then, of course, you can wear it as a shawl. And because it's knit at such a loose gauge, I think it's a US 7. I'm gonna have to tell him to be quiet. It's knit at a US 7, so it's pretty loose, which makes it super drapey, so I feel like it's just really cute to do this. Isn't that cute? And then you can see the texture in the back. I think it's really pretty. And I really hope that the recipient loves it as much as I do. And this took not even a full skein. I didn't want to keep track of the rows because there's so many rows that I just thought, well, I'll knit until I'm almost done with yarn and then I'll know. He's cracking me up. But I ended up knitting too far, so I actually did like 4 extra rows, I think, than what it's called for. So it doesn't even use a whole skein. So, and that was, I still had probably 20 grams left. But a perfect 1 skein shawl. Okay, I'm gonna go tell him to be quiet. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. And I realized I forgot to tell you guys what I'm wearing. This is the Minuet top by, oh no. I just cannot keep any information in my brain. Tricot Designs? I will put it in the description box. But it is a beautiful, just cute little top. I've got it over a very fall-y dress today with the little scallops here. And it's originally a long sleeve pattern, but I was working with a limited amount of yarn, so I did puff sleeves. And I actually forgot that I had this. I made it last year, and I was gonna pull out a different knitted garment to wear today, and I saw this and I thought, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And this is the perfect weather to wear it because It's starting to cool off a little bit, so I'm really feeling fall-y, but it's not quite cool enough to wear a sweater. So this is kind of in between. Sorry if I'm making like weird faces with my mouth. I have like a little blister right here. I bit my cheek the other day. I do that way too much, like abnormally a lot. I'm always biting my cheek on accident. And so I bit it, and now it's kind of like swollen, and it's like sticking out and it hits my teeth. So I'm trying to like avoid irritating it. So I have to move my mouth kind of weird, but just ignore that. Okay, the next finished object I have is one that I'm very excited to wear any day now, as soon as it cools down. And this is my Autumn League pullover. So if you have been here before, I made this sweater just because I had yarn that I needed to knit. And I wasn't even a big fan of the color at first. I love the pattern, but I wasn't super thrilled about, I liked it, the finished product, but I didn't think I was going to be this obsessed with it. And it's just perfect. I love it so much, and I really like the color. It's perfect neutral to go for fall. It matches this pair of like plaid pants that I have for fall. It matches perfectly. And it's just a very pretty, basic, casual sweater, like a sweatshirt. So you have a double folded hem, collar, neckline right here. And then what makes the pattern is the X in the front, which gives it that like academia feel. Just raglan increases. This yarn, I will say, like the stitch definition is really nice. It looks so crisp and so clean. And this is a yarn that is from Amazon. I found it at a thrift store, but it's what was it called? Casimo or something like that? I've talked about it in the last episode. It knit up way better than I thought it would. So down here you do have a split hem, which I love. I love a good split hem. And the sleeves and the hem are bound off with tubular bind off, which a lot of times when I see that, I just say, forget it, I'm doing a regular bind off, because I don't like to deal with the time. Also, you have to have such a long tail to do the tubular bind off. And when you're working, like the last time I did a tubular bind off, I had an oversized sweater. No split hem or anything, just the solid hem. And having such a long tail to do that was so irritating. I spent more time just pulling yarn than I did actually binding off. So with this one, obviously the sleeves are not a big deal because it's just the sleeve. And the hem is a split hem, so you're only doing half of it at a time. So I thought, well, I might as well do the tubular bind off. And I'm so glad I did, because you guys, a tubular bind off is just, it's just magic. I would love to know, I think about these kinds of things all the time. Who sat down and thought, okay, I'm gonna do all these random little steps to bind off this sweater to get this look? Because the tubular bind off has like a million steps, maybe 5 for like each set of stitches. And that just like, who thought of that? Who discovered that? Who discovered knitting? Who figured out that you could, I don't know. You can go down a rabbit hole. But bottom line, I love this sweater, and I will put some pictures over here of me wearing it so you can see how it turned out on a body. And I did knit the size 2, and I used recommended needles. I did not check my gauge after to see if I was on with the gauge, but I feel like I was pretty spot on. 1 second. Okay. Where was I? Recommended needles, size 2 in the pattern. Definitely recommend. I knit this in a month. I think I cast it on August 1st and bound it off the last day of August. So exactly a month. And this was not the only project I was working on. If you know me, I usually have like at least 5 things going. So it just knit up very quickly. And I love it. So those are my 2 finished objects. Now I do have 2 half finished objects. And the first one, well, they're both socks, but the first sock is this one. This is a sock that I cast on so many months ago, and it's just been sitting in our car, and I would only knit on it when we would be driving, which isn't really that much. And also, if we're ever going anywhere that's like far away, I take one of my bigger projects with me. So it's, I mean, I was literally knitting maybe 2 rows at a time on this sock. So it has taken me a while. But I love this yarn. Let me turn it around to this side so you can see. It looks a little bit more seamless. So you just got lots of different things going on. And I think it's very fun. This yarn, I get West Yorkshire Spinners and Regia mixed up terribly, but I think this was West Yorkshire Spinners, and I believe it was called Fantasy. They have a few other colorways that do this, and I just think they're so fun because you don't have to change colors, so you don't have any any ends to weave in, but you still get a fun sock. Now this sock, I normally knit my socks on a 2.5 millimeter, and I do a 64 stitch cast on, but my gauge has been loosening up over the years, and so for this I went down to a 2 millimeter 64 stitches, and it's tight. Now that it's been blocked and sitting on this blocker for a while, it might be better, but it is pretty tight, and I really like the density of the fabric, but I run into issues not necessarily on the foot or the leg as far as size goes, but right here in the widest part of your foot, getting it over that part of my foot is a little tricky, and it does feel a little restrictive. It almost feels like just that one row where you're connecting your top of the foot to like the gusset and everything. It's like that one row I just knit it too tight somehow, and I can feel that one row like squeezing on my foot. But like I said, now that it's blocked, it may be a bit better. We shall see. But I did go ahead and cast on the second one as soon as I bound this one off, because second sock syndrome is real, especially for ones like this that are just sitting in the car. So I did start the second one, and it will just sit in the car, and it will take another few months to get the second one done, and that's fine with me. Okay, the second sock that I finished are my fall socks. I'm so excited about these. This is the Pumpkins and Spice pattern by This Handmade Life. She has beautiful sock patterns. It's kind of blown out, so you can't really see. There we go. So you can see it's got some cabling going on, and then the stitch definition on this yarn is not the greatest. There is a texture on the back of the leg. You can kind of see it. And last time I talked about this sock, I said that this was a Regia yarn. It is not. It is a West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply in the color Nutmeg, which is the perfect fall color, in my opinion. So yeah, these, I'm aiming to have these complete by the end of the month so that they will be used all fall. My second one is, I've really just started the second one. Let's see. Yeah, I'm only this far on the second one. And so I've got, what, like 10 days? I don't know what the date is. But I think I can finish it because I aim to do a repeat every day. Sometimes I do 2 repeats. So I think that I can knock those out. And for this one, I did 2.5 millimeter needles, and I did cast on 64 because you need 64 for the written pattern. And I don't necessarily like it super tight on my leg. I don't mind it being loose a little bit on my leg, But then after I did, or as I was doing the gusset decreases, I decreased down to 60 stitches. But because of that, the pattern on the top of the foot is 32 stitches. So I'm not decreasing to where it's, 30 on the top, 30 on the bottom. It's 32 up here, and then I end up with 58 down here. 58. 28. Is my math correct there? So when I get down to the toe, I actually caught it, thankfully. I had to move my markers before I started decreasing for the toe, or else I would have an uneven number of stitches on each needle to do the Kitchener stitch. So it worked out and they fit perfectly. I think that's gonna be my go-to for socks, is cast on 64 but then decrease to 60, because that seems to be like my happy medium. So yeah, my pumpkins and spice socks. Next up, let's see, what should I talk about next? What have you already seen? Okay, we'll go through WIPs that you've already seen first. So the first one is my long sleeve Ranunculus. I think the last time I showed, I was just about to finish the body. So since then, I have finished the body and one sleeve. And I really, really love this project. I'm using a fingering weight Cascade Heritage in the colorway Chanterelles, and a Knit Picks mohair. There's like a tiny bit left in this one. I don't remember the colorway for this, but it changes color, as you can see. This just reminds me of a beautiful sunset. So I talked about this last episode, I did have to alternate skeins of mohair through the body because it started to pool a little bit. But the way it ended up, I actually really like. Now the sleeves, once I got on the sleeves, it just made a perfect little stripe. And I think that's really cute. It's different from the body, but I think it's really fun. And I did do the I-cord bind off on the sleeves, which I think is super cozy. I think I'm going to use that same bind off on another sweater at some point that I will talk about in a minute. Yeah, so first sleeve is done. I'm really only working on this when my daughter goes to ballet and I'm sitting, there's a playground outside, sit there with the boys while they play, and this is what I knit on because it's just stockinette on the sleeves. So I just started the second sleeve yesterday during her ballet class. I got about 1.5 inches. And I did make this a bit cropped. Now it will grow significantly when I block it because it is superwash and it's a very loose gauge, so it will probably stretch quite a bit. So it probably won't even be super cropped by the time it's done blocking. But this is just going to be a super fun, cozy knit. It's super fuzzy because of the mohair. It's just beautiful. And I knit the size 2 in the Ranunculus pattern, but I did go down a needle size, so it calls for 9s and 10s, I believe. But I use a 9 as my main needle and an 8 for my all of my ribbing. The only thing I did different this time versus my first Ranunculus is my first Ranunculus, I did the recommended neck for the smaller neckline, and it still is it's very stretchy. So this time I just did a long tail cast on, and I think it worked out perfect. So yeah, that is my Ranunculus. She will most likely be done the next time I see you. We're actually going to the beach in October, and I just think this is going to be a perfect little casual sweater to wear on the beach, especially like a beach evening, maybe with the sunset. I'm hoping I can get a picture with a pretty sunset with this on, because it just looks like a sunset to me. You know, when you go to the beach, or really sometimes here in the mountains, we have really beautiful pink sunsets. So that is my Ranunculus. This will not be Excuse me, what happened to my voice? This will not be my last ranunculus, I can tell you that, because it's just such a great pattern. If you have not made it yet, I highly suggest you do, because it is so versatile. You can really knit it with any yarn you want. It's a magic pattern. Okay, the next WIP that you have already seen is my Alpine Bloom sweater, and very exciting. I split for sleeves this morning. I wanted to make sure that I split for sleeves before I filmed because I wanted to be able to try it on and make sure that it was going to fit, because I've had issues with Caitlin Hunter's patterns in the past. The yokes just don't fit me well, and also my gauge was like way off. Terrible. And I didn't necessarily do a gauge swatch for this because it's knit in the round, and I couldn't do, I guess I could have done a swatch in the round, but with color work, but I didn't feel like it. So I tried it on this morning and it does fit perfectly. Now I did have to kind of hold it in place and kind of stretch out the neckline, but those are all things that I think when I block it, I can manipulate it the way I need it and it's gonna work. So Alpine Bloom, let me show you what she's looking like. So all the color work is complete at this point. It looks tiny, but I can't stretch it out on this needle because it's not quite big enough. It is so beautiful. Can I get that to roll down all the way? Oh, these colors are so beautiful together. So I'm using Cascade Heritage again in the color Limestone, which is really just like a muted beigey white. It's the perfect, it's not like stark white like this, but it's, I don't know, it's just perfect. And then I'm using a Zauber ball. I used a Zauber ball, and this is in the color Privy Council. And the only thing is that there's a little bit of pink in this. You can kind of see it towards the center. And I never did get to the pink. There's like a couple little specks of pink here and there. Maybe. But I would have loved to have a little bit of the pink, but it's all right. So I'm using recommended needles, except for in the colorwork section, I did go up to a 5. It calls for a 4, but I went for a 5 just because I am not super great with colorwork, just because I haven't done it a lot, and I didn't want to risk it being too tight and cinching in. So I just did a 5, and then I didn't pay super close attention to keeping it loose. I just kind of knit like I would normally knit, and it worked out perfect. I will say, as far as I can tell, I have knit a few rounds of just stockinette back with the 4, and I don't see any like line of puckering, so I think we're good. I'll be able to tell more once I knit a few inches on the body. But what was I just about to say? I don't remember. But I am planning on knitting this either 3/4 sleeves or long sleeves. It kind of depends on how much yarn, because I have 3 skeins of this, and I'm about a little over halfway done with the first skein. So if I do 3/4 sleeves, that's when I would want to do that thick I-cord bind off. I just think that would look really nice, like a loose arm. But if I do long sleeves, I saw someone who did, I believe they made some increases in the sleeve so that it got a bit bigger, and then they dramatically decreased to create a little bit of a puff sleeve with a longer hem. And then they added some more of that color work around the wrist. So that is also an option. We'll see what happens. I have a feeling by the time I get through the body of this, I'm just going to be ready to be done, and I'm probably going to go for the 3/4 sleeves, because this is fingering weight yarn on a US 4. So I mean, I got through this pretty quick, but that's just because it's color work and it's exciting. And each row, you know, you're just anticipating what's it gonna look like, and it's exciting. But just plain stockinette on a US4, I don't know. It's gonna take me a while. So we'll see what I end up doing with that. But so far, I am thrilled with the way it's looking. There is a little bit of puckering in the neckline, but I think that's just the nature of this design that she has done, and it does stretch out and flatten out, so I think it'll be great. So that is my Alpine Bloom. I'm not really anticipating that I'll have this finished anytime soon. Now that the color work part is done, it's kind of going to take a little bit of a backseat. I'm still going to work on it actively, but not like I have been, because like I said, I am super inspired for fall right now, and this could definitely be a fall sweater, but I have some other things in mind. So we will see her again, but it might be a while. Okay, now the next two things are actually new cast-ons since the last time we spoke. And the first one is another shawlette for another friend from church. These two ladies are actually best friends. And this is the Serenity shawl. I don't remember the designer, but I will put it in the description. And I'm gonna have a hard time showing you this because my needle cord is pretty short. But so I asked this friend what her favorite color was to wear close to her face, and she said blue. And then a subscriber gifted me this blue yarn, and I thought, that's perfect, here we go. So this is the Serenity, this is gonna be so hard, Serenity shawl. So let's see how I can do this. First, let me tell you the yarn. This is a botanical yarn. There's no colorway though. It's just a sock set. It also came with a dark blue mini skein, which I've just kept in my stash. It will definitely be used. So the way this works, and I believe this is a free pattern, so I'm not doing any harm here. Let's see if I can stretch it out. So you've got, whoops, a stockinette panel followed by garter, and then these flowers. Can you see this? And then garter again, just like a little stripe of garter. And then that pattern continues for 5 sets. So I have done 1, 2, 3, 4 sets. I just finished the 4th set of flowers. So I still have another repeat to go. I wish I could stretch it out all the way to see how big it is, because it's going to be pretty long, I think. But I just think it's a really, really pretty color. Not necessarily fall-y, but I feel like in the spring this would be super cute because of the flowers. And I just wanted to do something sweet for these two ladies because they're very encouraging to me and very helpful. So I wanted to do something for them. In my mind, I was like, these will be Christmas gifts, but there's no way I can wait till Christmas. As soon as they're both done, I'm going to gift them both to them already. Especially the other one because it's very fall-y and I want her to be able to use it for fall. So yeah, that is the Serenity shawl. Hopefully I will be able to podcast again and show you guys the finished object before it is gifted. But if not, I will definitely take pictures to show. The next new cast on, I feel like I'm flying through this, but that's kind of just how my brain works at this point because the kids are waiting on me and the baby, she has been napping, but I just heard her screaming a second ago, so she is awake. So I'm trying to be kind of quick. Okay, so the next new cast on I have is the Levitate wrap. I talked about this last episode. I don't think I had cast it on yet, but it is coming along. Let me figure this out here. Okay. So this is what we're looking like so far. You know what, I can actually, let me just slip it on. There's so many ends just hanging out everywhere. There it is. Something is getting hung. Oh, it's my working yarn. I just wrapped it all the way around me. Okay, 1 second. Okay, that's better. Okay, so far, this is where we are at. I am on the body, working increases each right side row until it wraps, you know. So yeah, it's coming along. I love it. Last time I showed you guys the yarn and I talked about how I thought these matched online, and they do not. This is Drops Charisma and then Drops something. I don't remember. Is my thing in here? It's not in here. Okay, but I talked about it last episode. This mohair. Online they look like the same color. They're not. But it is working out beautifully in my favor because look at how pretty that marling is. I just love it. And it's so cozy. It's a little itchy, but this is a layering piece, so that's okay. And oh, it's gonna be perfect. I did do a gauge swatch, and I think the gauge is supposed to be 15 by 20. And my row gauge was correct, but my stitch gauge, I kept getting 13. And so I think that meant my stitches were bigger, so I was knitting looser. Right? When I think about that, it really trips me up. So I'm knitting the extra small. I would have knit the small normally, but since my gauge came out bigger, I saw someone else on the project pages had the exact same gauge as me, and she knit the extra small, and she looked about my size, and it came out perfect. So that's what I'm doing. And I mean, it looks right to me. It definitely fits. So, I mean, from here on out, I can really modify it if I need to, but I think it's gonna be perfect. So that is my Levitate wrap. So I am using recommended needles, which are a 10, I believe. Yes, a 10. So it is knitting up fairly quickly because that's a huge needle. But it kind of hurts my hands a little bit just because of the big needles, and it's a pretty dense fabric. This is a pretty heavy yarn weight. So I usually only knit, I don't know, 5 or 6 rows on it before I kind of need to take a break. So yeah, I'm very excited about this though, and I would really love to have this finished by the end of the month, because this is another piece that I just really want to wear all fall, because it really goes with everything because it's brown. So that is my last new cast on. I did bring over here my Excavation blanket because I haven't showed you guys this in a long time, and I have added quite a few stripes to it. So this is a blanket. This is a free pattern. So this is a blanket that I am just adding a row to every time I finish a fingering weight project. So it's very slow, very long journey. This will not be finished anytime soon. I started this like 2, maybe 3 years ago. I lose track of time. But anyways, the last time I showed it to you guys, it was right here where the marker is. So I've added a few inches. And the way this pattern works is you just increase on either side until you get to half of the size you want, and then you start decreasing. And you don't have to weave in any ends because you leave the tassels hanging. Very fun. Yeah, I just thought I would update you guys on that. And I did still have a lot of like little tiny amounts of yarn that were not long enough to do a stripe in that, so I really couldn't do much with them. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna start a little crocheted granny square, I guess you would call it, to make a pillowcase just for the house. So I started one. Just be scrappy. I think that's a pretty good size little throw pillow. And then I'll just probably do the back side, some fabric that I have in stash. I made the kids go outside because they're being so loud, and I can still hear them. I don't know if you can still hear them cracking up, but yeah. So you can see, like, some of them I really don't have much left. It's just enough to knit a few of those, or crochet a few little double crochets. So what I did, this is a 3.125 millimeter needle. I just did a chain of 60, I believe, or maybe it was 64, something like that. And I'm just doing double crochets. So a set of 3 double crochets, skip 2 stitches, 3 double crochets, and then on the way back I'm double crocheting 3 in those chain spaces, or not even chain spaces, just in between the previous double crochets. I'm glad they're having fun. So yeah, that's just a little fun project I decided to start just so I could use up all those little tiny odds and ends of yarn. And now moving on to acquisitions. Here it is. I have bought a couple skeins of yarn, and I have a lot more yarn coming because, actually, let me talk about that first. There are 2 patterns that I am dying to knit, and I just realized I forgot to look at the name of either one of them, so they're gonna have to be in the description. And actually, I'll put pictures of them over here with the name of the pattern. So, and this is what I want to knit for fall. I'm hoping to cast the first one on October 1st if my yarn is here in time, and that is this vest. It's a color work vest, all over color work. It is perfect. I have the same color pants that she is wearing and a white blouse, very similar. And I just think, I saw this picture, someone shared it on a podcast. It might have been Amber from A Lovely Yarn. Maybe not, I don't remember for sure. But as soon as I saw it, I said, I have to knit that. I'm getting better at color work, but I don't normally look at full color work things and think, ooh, I'm gonna knit that. But I gotta knit this. So that will be casting on ASAP. I ordered yarn for that, and I did the same colors as the sample, but 2 of the colors were out of stock, so I went with a very close color. Close enough, I think, that it's gonna be the same look. And the next sweater that I ordered yarn for will be here. I saw this on Young Folk Knits. She did a Nora Ephron inspired fall knits, and my husband and I just watched for the first time You've Got Mail about a week and a half ago, and I kept telling him, look at that sweater, oh my gosh, look at that sweater. Like, when you're a knitter and you watch shows, it's so fun to just pick out things that are knit, and think, oh, can I make that? And anyways, there was a sweater at one point where she's in her bookstore, I believe, and she has on a turtleneck with a black skirt, and she's got the side tucked in. And my husband and I both were like, ooh, that's a cute sweater. And I think it was gray. I don't remember. But Young Folk Knits shared this sweater, and it's not, the one on the movie I don't think is this textured, but I just love the texture on this pattern. And it's pretty short, and I'm not a super big fan of, because it's a pretty chunky looking sweater, so I would want it to just be a full-on oversized sweater. So I ordered enough yarn to hopefully make it pretty long with a split hem, to completely cover my hips and my butt. So I could wear it with leggings or something like that. Dress it up or dress it down. And I ordered yarn that is I think I ordered Drops Lima. in a pearl gray, like a very light gray color. Now the yarn, so the pattern page says that it calls for Aran weight yarn. So at first I was looking for Aran weight yarn, but then I was looking through all the projects and almost everybody was using DK weight. And so I was like, well, is it a gauge problem? What's going on? So I went back to the pattern page, and it says Aran weight, but if you click on the recommended yarn, that yarn is classified as a DK. So I thought, okay, I'm just gonna get DK yarn. So I ordered Drops Lima, I believe that's what it was. And that is one I probably won't cast it on until, I don't know when I'll cast that on, but that's more of a winter knit for me. But I was feeling inspired of it because of You've Got Mail, and then I watched Young Folk Knits podcast about Nora Ephron films, and we're big fans of the other movies that were in that video that she did, When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle. We watched both of those last year for the first time. Neither one of us had seen them, or at least I hadn't. I don't think my husband had either, and we loved them so much. They're just like the perfect fall, Christmas, like the holiday season vibe, and I love them. And I really love like 80s, 90s style anyways, so yeah. Okay, so those two things are on my list. I'm going to knit those, absolutely, can't wait. Now, I have some yarn here to share, because the next thing I'm gonna knit when I finish this other shawlette is I want a fall shawl. And Ruth Loves to Knit podcast has been talking about the Ballyclare shawl, and it's beautiful. I love it. Beautiful pattern, uses 2 colors. So when I talk about, or when I say a subscriber sent me this yarn, there's this one very kind, lovely, generous subscriber who about a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago, she messaged me and asked if she could send me a yarn a month, like a sock club kind of thing. And I'm always apprehensive because I just feel like, I don't know, I don't ever want to come across as like ungrateful or I don't know. But I said, okay, sure, you know, and to make me feel better about it, she said, well, you know, when you're a bit older and your kids are older, you can do the same to bless a young mom. And I said, there we go, that's what I'll do. So I may have talked about this before, but anyway, she, for this past month, sent me this skein. This is from a homespun house in the color Butter Pecan, and it is so beautiful. So I ordered yarn to go with it to make the Ballyclare shawl. I ordered, it's a Malabrigo Machetta in the color Caramel. I know the color is Caramel. I can't remember. It's a sock yarn from Malabrigo. And I think it's going to make the perfect cozy fall shawl. So as soon as that gets here and I finish this other shawl, that is another fall knit that is coming. And next, before I got this in the mail, I knew that I wanted a fall yarn, like a specifically made to be fall yarn from an indie dyer. So I ordered from Leap of Faith Yarns. If you don't follow her on Instagram, go do. She has beautiful colorways. I ordered Pumpkin Power from her, which is another beautiful fall skein. It looks a lot lighter on camera than it is in real life. It's more of a yellow with the orange throughout. Now with this, I'm thinking that I want to make some more fall socks, maybe even some shorties, because I actually really like the shorties that I just finished, and I think that would be really cute with a textured shorty with this color as the contrast. So that's what I think I have planned for this, but I'm not 100% sure yet. We shall see, but I just love this. And I'm not one to usually buy indie dyed yarns just because they are a little bit more pricey. But I am always swooning over them. Like anytime I go anywhere, and I'm always drawn to the hand dyeds because I don't know, I just love the way the colors play together. So I thought I would treat myself to a little fall skein. And while I was at it, while I was treating myself, I thought I would treat myself to a new project bag as well. So I bought this from Delightful Works. Susan from Delightful Works. This beautiful autumnal project bag. It's so cute. Very pretty. I still have the stuff that she sent with it in there. But this will be holding my fall shawl as soon as the next skein gets here. For now, it's just holding both of these skeins. And I really love that it has these handles because, who knows, maybe I'll go walking and knitting. I haven't done that yet, but I think I could do it. My kids have, they're no longer listening to me about being quiet, so sorry. But we're almost done. Okay, last but not least, have you guys heard of the app Temu? I saw this yarn on there, labeled as cashmere yarn, for $16. 6 50-gram balls of cashmere yarn. Is this really cashmere? I have no idea. The reviews said that someone said they did the burn test and it passed, so maybe it is. I don't know. It is really soft, I will tell you that. I got 2 packs of it, so I have 12 50-gram balls. It tells you nothing about it on here. Absolutely nothing. But it is definitely a fingering or light fingering weight. So with 12 balls, surely I have enough for a good sweater. But now, it also came with 6 of these little threads. And I don't know what in the world you're supposed to do with that. Am I supposed to hold them together? I don't know, because this is very soft. Like, if you feel it on the spool, it feels like cashmere. And I don't know if you can see, but it has a little bit of like a fuzz. I don't know. Maybe this is the cashmere. I don't know, but I don't know how much is on this either as far as yardage goes. So I thought about maybe taking it off the spool and measuring it and trying to figure out how many yards I have of this. Or just holding it. I may just knit a swatch and hold them together and see what kind of fabric it makes. I just don't even know if it's worth it because like this is so thin. It's literally a thread. But in the end, lace weight yarn is pretty much a thread too, right? I don't know. No info, but it does feel like a very nice yarn, and I have a lot of it, and it's a beautiful color. It's beautiful dark green. So I thought I would make a Christmas sweater with this. I don't know what sweater yet. I debated on the Pink Fizz sweater by Andrea Mowry, but I don't know. We'll see. I just have to, I need to knit up a swatch and then just take my gauge that I like and put it in Ravelry and see what I can find. Because, like I said, I'm working with limited information here. So, that might be what I have to do. And maybe I'll do a little, the little burn test to see if this is cashmere or not. I mean, it matters not to me because it feels nice and it's pretty and that's all that matters to me. So yeah, that's all I have for today. I feel like it was a lot and I went through it really quickly, but kids, kids, that's all I'm gonna say. It is hard to film with kids in the house, and I could always go downstairs to our room, but our room is underground. It's in the basement, so there's no natural light, and I just can't get the lighting to look decent. I may need to order one of those filming lights from Amazon, maybe something that hooks onto my phone, like the ring lights, so that I could film down there, and that would make filming much easier because I could film in the evening. But for now, I'm really just trying to squeeze it in where I can, even if kids are around. Hi, Rosie. And here comes another kid. I just heard the door open. He must have woken up from his nap. Okay, so that's my cue. It's time to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this, even though I'm always a little off the rails. And I really enjoyed sitting down to talk with you guys. You're such a dork. And hopefully it won't be too long before I see you again. If you haven't already and you would like to, please subscribe and leave me a comment and let me know what you're working on. If you have any fall wish list knitting going on. And until next time, happy knitting.